Welcome to Awaken with Sulkina, a space where we dive deep into soul growth, quantum manifesting, and spiritual awakening. I'm your host, Sulkina, and I'm here to guide you through the beautiful, messy, transformational journey of waking up to who you truly are. Each week, we'll explore the shifts, the challenges, and the miracles that come with awakening. Your soul is here to evolve, and you're not meant to do it alone. So let's walk this path together. Hello, beautiful people, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another episode of Awakening with Sulkina. I'm your host, Sulkina, and I'm really excited for today's episode. We're going to be talking all about detaching and surrendering from the lens of or the wisdom of the Tao Te Ching. So, the Tao is an ancient spiritual text that teaches us how to stop forcing life and start flowing with it. You're going to learn in this episode what the Tao really is, why trying to control everything creates more suffering, and how aligning with the natural rhythm of life leads to deep peace. Truly, the peace that I know you've been looking for if you clicked on this video, if you clicked on this podcast episode. So, if you have been feeling stuck, disconnected, this conversation is going to remind you that life doesn't have to be so hard. You can surrender, you can soften, and you're allowed to trust the flow of life. It's safe to do that. And I'm also going to share some simple um, spiritual practices that you can start today to live a life of peace and calm with the help of the Tao Te Ching. Okay. So I got the idea to do this episode after reading Michael Singer's book, Untethered Soul. He has a whole chapter on the Tao, and I had heard about the Tao a little bit before this, but after reading that chapter, I was just blown away by this philosophy that basically teaches you how to walk the path of least resistance, walk the path of true peace and freedom rather than swinging to the extremes, is what the Tao says. Okay. So in this chapter, Michael Singer talks about the wisdom of the Tao, and he talks about how Earth and the universe, rather, always comes back to its natural flow of balance. Universal energy does not cling to highs, does not cling to lows. It doesn't resist highs and it doesn't resist lows. And this reminds me of the awakening process because the awakening truly happens when you stop swinging between these extremes. So you're not wanting one thing and then rejecting another, but instead you're relaxing into your body, you're relaxing into your center, and you're allowing life to move through you without resistance. I know that as humans, it can be challenging when something outside of you happens and it's not something that you've planned. It's not something that you like. But this chapter just spoke to me so deeply because I really got an aha moment where I was like, actually, what is the point of worrying? If that thing is happening in front of you, what does worrying actually do? And as somebody that was, a former chronic warrior, and I can still get into that thought loop sometimes if I'm not aware, it was such a deeply important chapter for me personally to read because I realized that in the past year, I actually have been kind of caught up in the emotional highs and lows of life. And yes, I know how to regulate. I know how to do EFT tapping. I have a breath work that I really enjoy. But I was actually finding myself manipulating life to match my own personal preference instead of looking at circumstances and asking the important question of what is this thing trying to teach me? Because if there's anything that I've learned also from reading The Untethered Soul is that every single thing that is happening in your life, every single thing that is right in front of you is meant for your evolution and soul growth. Nothing is accidental. That is one thing that I've definitely learned, like being on this spiritual journey, is that nothing is accidental, that everything in your life is helping you meet yourself deeper. So essentially, the wisdom of the Tao is teaching you to not avoid what you don't like. It's teaching you to not cling onto what you like. And it gently invites you to find equanimity. And this is that space of being so in balance and so in harmony and so centered within yourself. And it's this space of attachment, like the space in between attachment and aversion. So you're not fully attaching yourself to anything and you're not trying to like deflect anything, okay? It's this total peace and surrender. So let's get into it. What is the Tao after that little sermon? What is the Tao Te Ching? Okay, so I'm just going to call it the Tao because it's shorter and it's easier. But it's a short spiritual text that was written literally close to 3,000 years ago by the Chinese teacher Lao Tzu. The Tao is probably one of the most famous and influential books in Eastern philosophy and spirituality because it teaches you how to live in harmony with life. So if we were to break down the Tao Te Ching, the Tao means the natural flow of the universe. De means power, and living in alignment with, the way, the natural flow of the universe. Tao means the way, and Jing means scripture. So I guess when you put it all together, it means the scripture of the way or something of that sort. So now let's go through the core ideas of the Tao. Number one, it teaches us to flow with life and not to fight it. When you align with the way, you live in peace and ease. Because what you're essentially telling yourself and what you're telling life is that I accept wholeheartedly myself. I accept what is in front of me. I am not forcing, I am not striving for anything to happen outside of me, and I'm not clinging onto a future desire that is not here yet. Because I know that by forcing and clinging and manipulating, that creates suffering. And so flowing with life and not fighting it is all about surrendering and just feeling that relaxation and softness in your body. And when you do this, you're sending a signal to your body and to the universe that everything is okay. I'm interrupting the episode real quick, but if you're trying to manifest your specific person but still feel stuck in the same old story, it's time to go deeper. You cannot manifest a new version of them if you're still holding on to the old version of you. That's exactly why I created Forgive and Recreate Your SP. This is my transformational workshop to help you release the past, shift your energy, and finally become the version of you who receives the love you've been desiring. We're not chasing, we never chase our specific person. We are going to heal on a deep level. If you're ready to stop repeating the same cycles and finally create a brand new story for yourself and your specific person, this is your invitation. Join me inside this workshop. I would love to have you in there. You'll find all the link in the show notes. And now back to the episode. And surrendering is strength. You're not forcing anything to happen outside of you. You're fully accepting and meeting life exactly where it is. So a lot of people actually compare, living by the Tao to living in flow like water. I mean, that can be a whole other episode, like literally learning life lessons from nature. You can learn so much from water itself. Like the fact that water is abundant. And yeah, anyway, I'll get into it in another episode. But the first core idea of the Tao is that you flow with life and you don't fight life. The second core idea is simplicity and stillness is powerful. The Tao teaches us that true strength does not come from domination. It doesn't come from assertiveness, or I guess the better way to explain it is aggressive assertion. It's really about being rooted and calm in who you are and with your life. So the Tao actually values quiet and gentle power. And again, it's being like water, right? It's flexible, it's gentle, it's very flowy, but it's also unstoppable. Like once water flows, it flows. The next core idea is to let go of excessive desires and control. This doesn't mean that it's bad to want to manifest. We all come into this work because we desire something. It's human nature to want and to desire. It's normal, it's okay. But it becomes imbalanced when you give yourself anxiety from trying to make things happen and from chasing things like, people, possessions, fame, power, whatever, money. And you are not able to come back into that way, right? Like that balance, that harmony. So the Tao actually teaches like both extremes are not good. So if you're too unattached or if you're too attached, like both create the same exertion of energy. And so the purpose of the Tao is to actually teach us that we need to come into balance. We need to come into that middle ground. It's not good to be completely unattached as well, but it's also not good to be excessively controlling and excessively attached to material things or even to people. And peace actually comes from letting go and not from holding and clinging onto your desires tighter. And the last core idea is something called Wu Wei. And I really love this. I actually heard this a few years ago, but Wu Wei essentially means effortless action or action through non-action. So again, it really is about moving with life's natural rhythms. And I guess in law of assumption or law of attraction world, this would be called inspired action, right? So you're not pushing for things to happen. If it comes in front of you, it's meant for you. And if it feels aligned, you say yes to it. So it's very similar to a tree that grows without trying, or the seasons change without being forced. Like when winter comes, nature knows and nature understands. The animals understand. Like they're not trying to fight and think that, oh my God, why is it winter? Like I want it to be summer right now. Like nature and animals just know the flow of life. They understand that there are seasons in nature. And because we are so connected to nature, we're probably like the only species that, when things happen outside of us, we actually get angry. But it's like for other beings on this planet, there is a certain flow and the universe always comes into balance. And so there's no point in fighting what's happening. I loved this chapter in The Untethered Soul because essentially what Michael Singer was sharing in this chapter is that life has its own flow. Like, give yourself a challenge to not force or try to manifest anything for like 14 days. Just learn to accept where you are, to accept yourself. You don't have to control anything. Learn to meet life where it is for you so you can learn to align with where you want to be. And for people that are inside my Become Magnetic course, literally my first chapter in that course is accepting yourself because no matter where you are in life, no matter how much you hate where you are, you cannot manifest a new reality by fighting and trying to control the reality that is right in front of you, like the reality that you're living currently. It'll be almost impossible because that is sort of like fighting energy. And this is also why I love EFT tapping, right? Like the core message of it is I deeply and completely love and accept myself, even though I'm going through whatever is happening. And another thing that Michael Singer talks a lot about in his book is to stay open, right? And he actually has a really beautiful sentence in the book where he says, the only way to not close your heart is to stay open. And the only way to stay open is to not close. Like, kind of sounds like Joe Dispenza when he says the only way to be happy is to stop being unhappy. Like, there's really no other way. I do think that the first step, if you are, in a space where you don't like where you are, or you're trying to manifest something and it's just not happening and you're frustrated, I would say come back to the body. Because when that happens, you're not even where you are. Like you're in your head, you know? And that is where the overthinking is, the doubt, the fear, like that's where all of these emotions and thoughts live. And so your first step should always come back to the breath, come back to the body, and really feel your feelings. And I'm not saying for you to attach a story to your feelings, but actually feel it. Like just feel it. Where are these emotions in my body? And you're going to find that when you stop fighting yourself, you stop fighting with life, you stop micromanaging your life, and instead you trust it. It's like every single thing that's in front of you, you're like, okay, okay, I surrender to this. I trust this. I choose to relax my body, and it's okay. I can handle this. Everything is okay. Sorry, guys. People are buying my courses, so like I'm getting the emails, but you'll be surprised at what could happen or what will happen in your life when you just start to simply relax. Relax into your heart, stay open, and just like nature and just how the river flows, like trust it. The seasons change, you trust it. The sun rises every morning, you trust it. The sun sets every day, you trust it. And if there's no separation between you and nature, why can't you trust yourself? I'll share a little more about the things that I've personally learned reading this chapter. But I think like one of the biggest lessons is that the middle way, like the Tao, finding that middle ground is peace. And it's not about suppressing your manifestations. It's not about forcing yourself to be neutral. It's not about suppressing your desires as well. It's truly about staying open, really. It's truly about being relaxed no matter what life brings. Okay, this person is not reciprocating the energy that I'm putting out. Okay, I still choose to stay open. I'm not going to let this person dictate how I feel about myself. And how do you get to that space? You do deep inner work. You have to know who you are. You have to meet yourself. I'm not sure if it was in the Bible when they said know thyself. And like those two words, it's so important because if you don't know who you are, people can dictate your emotions. People can dictate how you feel. And this used to be me. Like my ex wouldn't text me and it would ruin my day. And now I think back to it and I'm like, a text? A text? Some guy doesn't text me and I'm crying? That was how much I didn't have self-worth. And I would fight it so hard because I didn't validate myself. So I needed that person's validation. The second thing that I've learned is that resisting or clinging, it truly creates suffering. When you cling to happiness, when you cling to pleasure, or when you push away pain, when you avoid feeling those heavy emotions, You're simply creating disturbance within yourself. This is the word that Michael Singer actually uses. He's like, every time you try to fight your emotions or fight life, you're creating disturbance. And so the Tao is really about allowing experiences to pass through you without holding on to them so much. And I find that the only way for you to not hold on to these circumstances is by not repeating your stories, by being aware of the thoughts and the stories that you're telling yourself in your head. So when you cling to what feels good and you're trying to deflect what feels bad, you're actually disturbing your own natural state of peace. And this creates suffering. We literally suffer because we cling to what we like and we just resist what we don't like. And that is human nature, right? Like we run onto pleasure and we run away from pain. But the truth is, life is always moving and changing. You're never going to be in the same season for the rest of your life. And trying to control your life only creates more disturbance inside of you. So if you can just relax, let the people in your life be in your life. Let the people that want to leave your life, let them leave your life. Mel Robbins now created the let them theory. Kind of feel like the Tao basically was like the first concept to like introduce that. It's like let let things be. And the most important thing that I've learned from the Tao is that you can be free right now. Freedom is a choice. You don't have to wait for things outside of you to change to feel free. And freedom doesn't come from controlling the outside world. You don't have to manipulate your reality to be how you want it before you feel free. It's actually the other way around. So when you let go, when you relax, when you open, when you come back to your center, that is when you're free. When your reality does not dictate how you feel, that is when you're free. When another person does not dictate how you feel, that's when you're free. And real spiritual growth, real soul growth, it happens when you make that commitment to yourself that nothing and nobody outside of me can make me feel a certain way because I'm in charge of my own emotions. And so to wrap this episode up, the Tao invites us to stay centered, to stay open, no matter what is happening in your life. Don't close your heart, even when things are tough. Don't just cling onto life when things feel good. In fact, don't cling at all. And Michael Singer says it perfectly. He's like, life is meant to flow like a river. If we try to control it, we suffer. If we align with it, we find peace. And so, just like nature flows effortlessly, seasons change, rivers flow, the ocean is abundant, we are meant to flow too. And trying to manipulate life instead of aligning with it, it only pulls you back into that suffering energy, pulls you out of peace. So, my reflection to you is where in your life right now are you swinging between extremes? Where in your life right now are you trying to manipulate or change something in your external reality? And what would it feel like for you to relax into the middle, into the way, into the Tao, and simply be? So think about that. I really hope that this episode resonated with you. Let me know if it did. Send me a message. Share it with someone who you think needs this message today. And just don't forget to keep yourself open, keep yourself centered, and to always choose freedom over control. Like I think that's what I want to share in this episode, okay? I actually have an interview right now with somebody, so I'm going to go, but thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next week. Bye.